sugar added and sugar-free seems to really be popular with consumers today. What do you think is driving that trend?
I think we're starting to see a lot more requests for reduced sugar because our consumers are really looking at the labels more. They're really understanding how to read nutrition facts panels and ingredient statements. Consumers are realizing how much sugar is actually in these products. Then you also have diets like keto that really focus on reduced sugar, and so our consumers are really looking for products that don't contain a lot of sugar anymore.
So for a long time, consumers, especially when you look at your childhood, you imagine dairy as a super indulgent space. Ice cream's full fat, creamy. It's a dessert, right? Or as sometimes a treat. But recently we've seen this big shift in consumers thinking that dairy can actually be something that they can add to their diet as a healthy alternative. So when you look at the low sugar space, that's really where it's being, I think, initially targeted as slowly lowering sugars in a space that never looked at it previously.
Up until maybe 10 years ago, one of the number one concerns that consumers had in a lot of food spaces, including dairy, was fat. And there's been sort of a slow shift to where fat is somewhat falling back into the good graces of consumers' minds. But what is definitely top of mind for consumers, the number one ingredient they tell us that they're looking to avoid is sugar. Sugar/caloric sweeteners in general.
We know consumers have really high expectations for taste and reduced sugar products. How is Cargill addressing this?
It's definitely not easy to reduce sugar in general, but really in dairy products as well. You know, sugar doesn't only bring flavor to the table, but it also brings functionality like adding mouthfeel. In ice cream applications, it helps with the freezing point. And so it's really important when you're reducing sugar to replace it with ingredients that will replace that functionality that sugar brings to the table. So our products like stevia sweetener and erythritol are really great with that.
I know you mentioned stevia, Christine, and I think that's a really interesting one because I think for a long time stevia has had a negative perception with consumers. It has a bitter, off notes, and it just doesn't quite get them the same feel that they look for in full sugar products. Cargill's probably the past 5 to 10 years have really buckled down in the stevia space and done quite a bit of research to come out with the new stevia sweetener EverSweet, which rounds out that bitter notes and can give you more of that full sugar experience.
What are some of the top misperceptions when it comes to reducing sugar in dairy?
I think you automatically think that reduced sugar dairy just isn't going to taste good. It's not going to give you that same satisfaction that a full sugar product will, and that's just not true anymore.
I agree. We've learned a lot about this space. You know, another new ingredient that I'm excited about is our Clear Flow flavor modulator. It's a natural flavor, and it really helps to round out some of those bitter off notes that you may associate with reduced sugar or even plant-based dairy.
What do you think are the top application trends in reduced sugar dairy?
Well, I know I mentioned ice cream previously. It's a personal favorite of mine. You know, really taking something indulgent and cutting the sugars in a healthy way that consumers can feel good about. So for example, also if you're looking at kind of a methodology I call stair-stepping. So you're slowly taking down sugar levels kind of from 50% to 30%, all the way to no sugar added, which is something that consumers are starting to look for in their dairy products.
For me, I think what I'm most excited about in the sugar reduction space is for beverages. So chocolate milk is one of those products where we give it to our children, and it's one of those products that, you know, is perceived as healthy, and it is healthy. However, it has super high levels of sugar. And so with our stevia products, we're able to get down to those reduced sugar, no sugar added levels, and I think that's really exciting.
What's on the ingredient label or the sugar levels of ice cream or frozen desserts really doesn't matter. It's all about that special treat that just takes a nice experience you have and brings it one level higher. Well, that's been challenged by a lot of the low sugar, low carb ice creams that are out there now, but you can really have that full pint experience. Secondly, I was kind of taking, really high, gram levels in the teens or in the 20s, but also not bringing it down to 0 grams of added sugar. So the trend is, okay, we don't want to have like the double digits, but we don't want to bring it down to 0 because consumers get suspicious. So it's about getting down to that single gram added sugar levels, whether it's ice cream or chocolate milk or yogurt.
What are some of the most exciting advancements you're seeing in sugar reduction today?
I keep on going back to this ingredient because I'm so excited about it, but our Clear Flow natural flavor ingredient is amazing because we've come a long way in that space from a sensory profile. Ingredients like this can really help get us there so that our consumers are not compromising on flavor. And so we see this ingredient being used in coffee creamers, in plant-based ice cream, and it's performing really well.